What if a forgotten penny from 1968, one that may be sitting in your junk drawer right now, could be worth hundreds, or even thousands of dollars today? Yes, a single penny. From the same year you were dancing to Elvis or watching the moon landing on black and white TV, let me tell you a story. Last year, a retired schoolteacher from Ohio was cleaning out her late husband's fishing gear. Tucked in a dusty coffee can were a few old coins, nothing fancy. But one caught her eye, a worn Lincoln penny dated 1968.no mint mark. She remembered her husband used to save weird-looking coins. She figured it was just sentimental, until her grandson, a coin hobbyist, looked it up. It sold for over $4,000. Because that 1968 penny wasn't supposed to exist like that. Let's break it down. In 1968, most Lincoln pennies were minted in Denver, and they carried a little D mint mark under the date. The Philadelphia Mint also produced pennies, but starting that year, they were finally supposed to start marking them. 2.so when you find a 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, your first instinct is probably, oh, it's from Philly. But here's the twist. Some Denver pennies were accidentally struck without their D mint mark due to a die error. And those few are rare. Collectors call it the 1968 no mint mark error penny. Only a handful have ever surfaced in pristine condition. Now here's the heartbreaker. Thousands of people spent these by accident. Some gave them to kids, some tossed them in Coinstar machines. One man even glued one to a high school project, thinking it was just an old penny. They didn't know they were handing away a piece of American minting history, and by the time they found out, the penny, and its value, was long gone. Think you might have one hiding in a jar? Here's what to check: no mint mark at all under the date, just a blank space. Flip the coin, look for clear, sharp details, especially Lincoln's hair and the word Liberty. The less wear, the better. Shiny equals more value. If you find a suspect, don't clean it, that kills its value. Instead, send it to a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. Or visit a local coin dealer. The reputable ones will know what to do. You know that old glass jar in your kitchen, the one filled with pennies you swore you'd roll up someday? It might just hold your future, because the rarest treasures are often the ones we overlook. What if a single penny sitting in your drawer right now could be worth over $10,000? And what if I told you it's one you might have spent 100 times as a kid? There's a story that's been passed down in coin circles, a quiet tale from the dusty backroads of Colorado. An older gentleman named Harold was clearing out his childhood home after his mother passed. In the corner of an old mason jar, tucked behind flour tins and forgotten coffee cans, he found what looked like an ordinary penny, 1964, with a little D under the date. That he almost tossed it in with the others. But something made him pause. Maybe it was the weight of time, maybe it was his mother's voice reminding him to never overlook the little things. A year later, that same penny sold at auction for more than $15,000. So what made Harold's coin, a 1964 D Lincoln cent, so incredibly valuable? It wasn't just the date or the mint mark. It was the combination of a rare transitional error, an early die strike, and pristine condition. 1964 was a pivotal year. The U.S. Mint was in overdrive trying to meet coin demand, and in that rush, mistakes happened. Some 1964 D cents were accidentally struck on leftover planchets from previous years, or with misaligned dies, causing doubling in the text, making them incredibly rare and sought after today. A woman in Ohio unknowingly used one of these rare 1964 D pennies in a vending machine back in 1997. Her son, a young collector, recognized it years later in a collector's forum, but by then, it had long disappeared into circulation. That penny? It was estimated to be worth between $8,000 and $12,000. How many of us have let a fortune pass through our fingers, just because we didn't know what to look for? Here's how you can check if you've got one of these rare gems. Look for the D mint mark just below the date. Stands for the Denver Mint. Check for doubling in Liberty or In God We Trust. That's a huge red flag for value. Condition matters. Uncirculated or high-grade coins can fetch thousands. Some may have been struck on silver planchets. If it sounds different when dropped, get it checked. Don't guess. Get it graded by professionals. Reputable services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, can confirm authenticity, condition, and value. Even your local coin dealer might give you a quick opinion, but always go certified if it looks promising. That old jar in your kitchen, your dad's dresser drawer, your childhood coin collection, they might be holding more than memories, they might be holding your future. Don't let history slip through your hands. What if I told you one ordinary penny from 1970, the kind your father might have tossed on a gas station counter, could now be worth over $3,000? Yes, the same kind of coin you might have jingling in that dusty old coffee can on the shelf. Don't go digging just yet, because what makes this penny special is a story soaked in mystery, history, and a little heartbreak. Back in the late 80s, a retired postman named Earl from Wichita was going through his late brother's belongings. Nothing fancy, just old comic books, faded photos, and a tin full of loose change. One penny caught his eye. It looked off, almost like it had two birthdays. Curious, Earl took it to a local coin shop. The owner turned white. What Earl had, tucked between forgotten nickels and lint, was a 1970 D Lincoln cent struck over a 1941 Canadian penny. A true minting mystery, and one of only a handful ever confirmed. Earl's coin later sold for thousands. But to Earl, it wasn't just the money. He said, "My brother held on to this for decades, probably not knowing what he had." Funny how something so small can carry so much memory. So why is this coin, the 1970 D Lincoln penny, so rare and valuable? It's not every 1970 D penny. It's a rare error. A few were mistakenly struck on top of Canadian pennies from 1941. Yes, two different countries. Two different eras. One astonishing mistake, and because it wasn't caught in time at the Denver Mint, only a small number ever left the facility, accidentally released into circulation, hiding in plain sight. Sadly, many people have spent them without ever knowing. There's a story of a young woman in Oregon who used one of these in a vending machine in 2003. A collector later bought it off eBay for just 75 cents. She never knew, she'd basically bought a Coke with a $3,000 bill. That's the tragedy and magic of rare coins. You won't know unless you look. If you want to check your old pennies, here's what to keep an eye on. Look for the D mint mark, just under the year on the front. It stands for Denver. Flip the coin over and examine it under magnification. Look for signs of another design beneath Lincoln's image. Traces of the 1941 Canadian penny, maple leaves, the crown, faint lettering. It may look doubled or strange. Don't dismiss it as damaged. If you think you found something unusual, don't clean the coin. Instead, take clear photos and reach out to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, or contact a trusted local coin dealer. Even better, visit a coin show. Many experts will look for free. You know that jar in your kitchen? The one your kids call junk change. It might just be your family's hidden time capsule. 1 cent from your past could fund your future. A story you'll pass on, like a good recipe or an old photograph. Subscribe to Timeless Treasures. We help you find history hiding in plain sight. And remember, it's never just a penny, if you know where to look. Mantelpiece clock sparkles. What if that penny your grandson almost dropped in the vending machine could actually be worth thousands? Yes, thousands. Not in gold or silver, but in pure, forgotten history. Let me take you back to Denver, 1973. The Vietnam War was winding down. Gas was 39 cents a gallon. And in the clinking machinery of the Denver Mint, something curious happened. A humble Lincoln cent was struck. Millions of them, in fact. Nothing fancy, just copper, Lincoln's profile, and a tiny D under the date. People never gave it a second thought. Fast forward a few decades, a retired machinist in Ohio is rolling coins with his granddaughter. He spots a worn old penny, just about to be tossed in with the rest. But something about the date, and that tiny mint mark, pulls at his memory. He sends it in to be graded. What he learns blows his mind. You see, while most 1973 D Lincoln cents are worth only face value, a small number of them were struck with errors so rare, collectors have been chasing them for decades. We're talking double dies, off-center strikes, and even a whispered legend, an early batch struck on leftover bronze planchets from 1972. But even without the errors, high-grade 1973 D pennies, the kind that somehow escaped circulation, can fetch hundreds, even thousands if perfectly preserved. Why? Because this coin sits at a crossroads in numismatic history, just before major composition changes, and during a time of tight quality control. That makes error coins even rarer. I once knew a man, George, a widower from Nebraska, who proudly kept a coffee can of change from his first hardware store. His grandson cashed it in for arcade tokens one summer, among them, a confirmed double-die 1973 D penny, now valued at over $3,000. He never let that coffee can out of sight again. Don't be like George. Before you toss that jar of pennies, check for these clues: doubling on the date or LIBRTY off-center strikes, especially near the rim, deep, rich red luster. If uncirculated, look for clean, sharp steps on the Lincoln Memorial, a sign of high quality. Got something interesting? Send it to PCGS or NGC, the most trusted grading services in the world. Or visit a reputable local coin dealer, the kind who's been in the same shop since the 70s, with stories to match. Look, maybe it's just an old penny, but maybe, just maybe, that dusty jar in your attic? That drawer in your father's old desk, it could be holding a story worth telling, or a treasure worth far more than face value. So check your change. Tell your stories. And never overlook the little things. What if the penny you dropped under Grandma's couch in 1978 could be worth hundreds of dollars today? That's right, a single, worn copper coin, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, could be a rare key to a hidden treasure. Let me take you back to a dusty little antique store in Kansas. 1999. An old man walks in, corduroy jacket, silver hair, and a quiet sadness in his eyes. He's brought in a jar of coins from his late wife's sewing room. Just junk change, he says. But the young store clerk, fresh out of college, dumps them on the table, and something catches the light. No mint mark. 1978, a Lincoln penny. Odd. He flips it, eyes narrowing. Could it be that coin later sold for nearly $300 to a private collector? The old man wept. Not for the money, but because his wife had likely held onto it, without ever knowing what it really was. Now here's the truth: most 1978 Lincoln cents were made in Philadelphia, Denver, D., and San Francisco, S. The Philadelphia Mint didn't place a mint mark in those days, so technically, the no mint mark isn't an error. But what makes some 1978 no mint mark pennies valuable are subtle errors and conditions collectors drool over. Double die obverse, Lincoln's face or text looks slightly doubled, off-center strikes or misaligned dies. Proof-like condition, despite being circulated coins in top-grade condition, especially those that have never been touched by human hands. An ordinary coin, from an unassuming year, that sometimes hides extraordinary value. I met a retired teacher last year at a flea market. She'd saved a 1978 penny in her classroom drawer for decades, said it always reminded her of her first year teaching. One day, cleaning out clutter, she spent it at a gas station candy machine. She laughed when I told her it might have been worth hundreds, but her eyes told a different story. How many of us have done the same, tossed away memory, and maybe, value. Here's how you know if your 1978 penny might be special: doubling on "In God We Trust," or Liberty, a sharp, crisp strike with strong detail, unusual shine, almost mirror-like. Any signs of off-center printing or odd spacing? Think you found something? Don't guess. Get it graded by experts like PCGS or NGC, or take it to a trusted coin dealer in your town. A $50 verification fee could uncover a $500 gem. That dusty jar in your kitchen, the one full of pennies you've ignored for years, it might just hold your future. A piece of your past. Or a memory worth far more than 1 cent. Subscribe to Timeless Treasures. We help you find history, hiding in plain sight, and who knows, the next treasure might be in your hands already. What if a single penny from your childhood, yes, just one copper coin, could be worth hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars today? And what if you've already spent it, without ever knowing? In 1981, a retired schoolteacher named Margaret found an old penny while cleaning her late husband's workshop. Just a plain-looking 1980 Lincoln cent, or so she thought. She almost tossed it into a Salvation Army donation jar. But something told her to pause. Her husband was a collector, after all. Years later, a local coin dealer gasped when he saw it. "Do you know what you have here?" he asked. Turns out, that little copper coin was hiding a mistake from the US Mint, a mistake that made it rare, and incredibly valuable. So what makes the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so special? In 1980, pennies were mostly minted in Philadelphia, which typically didn't use a mint mark at the time. But this year was supposed to be different. Philadelphia was required to use a P mint mark for the first time on other coins like nickels, dimes, and quarters, but some pennies accidentally left the mint without a mark at all, even though they weren't supposed to. These error coins, 1980 Lincoln cents with no mint mark, are incredibly rare. Collectors are always on the hunt for them. Depending on the condition, some have sold for hundreds of dollars, or more. We've heard the stories. One man in Ohio says he used a rare penny like this to buy a gumball back in the 90s. Another woman said her grandson used hers in a vending machine, and just like that, history was gone. Once a coin like this slips through your fingers, it's almost impossible to get back. That's why I always say, before you give away that old jar of coins, take one last look. Look for no mint mark under the date. Philadelphia coins that year were supposed to have one. Check the condition. The better it looks, the higher the value. Flip the coin, see if you can spot the designer's initials, VDB, near Lincoln's shoulder. It's a good sign it's authentic. Found one? Don't guess, send it to a trusted coin grading service like PCGS or NGC, or visit a certified coin dealer in your town. You can even search local coin shows. Many collectors would love to take a look. That dusty jar in your kitchen, it might not just hold pennies, it might hold a piece of forgotten American history, and maybe, just maybe, your next chapter. What if a single penny, the kind your father used to leave on the nightstand, could be worth thousands today? Or worse, what if you spent it at a gas station, without ever knowing what you held in your hand? This is no ordinary penny. Let me take you back. It was the summer of 1997. A man named Harold, a retired mailman from Ohio, sat down with his grandchildren, sorting through an old coffee tin of coins he'd kept since the 1960s. Mostly pocket change, dimes, wheat pennies, nickels from the war years, but nestled in the rusted pile was something unusual, a 1984 Lincoln penny, no mint mark. It didn't look like much. It was scratched, worn, darkened by time, but something about it felt off. Years later, after Harold had passed, his grandson brought that coin to a small dealer at a coin show in Columbus. That single penny fetched over $15,000. So what made this little coin so special? In 1984, most Lincoln cents were made in Philadelphia with no mint mark. But a few of these pennies were struck with a dramatic error, a double die. This means the image on the coin, particularly Lincoln's ear, appears doubled. It's a striking visual if you know what to look for, and here's the kicker. Only a tiny number of these 1984 double die pennies exist today in clean condition. The rest? Lost to time, or spent at the corner store for bubble gum. A woman in Michigan once used a 1984 penny to pay for a gumball machine at a car wash, only to learn years later, from a local news story, that her childhood coin collection had held one of these rare double die pennies. She had spent it could have changed her retirement. How many of us have done the same? Tossed them into tip jars, vending machines, or left them in drawers collecting dust. If you're wondering whether your old penny is one of the rare ones, date must be 1984, just that year. No mint mark under the date, which means it came from Philadelphia. Look closely at Lincoln's ear. It should appear doubled or ghosted. Use a magnifier. Even a smartphone zoom will help. The clearer the condition, the higher the value. Think you found one? Have it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, or bring it to a licensed coin dealer. They'll know what to look for and can help you value it safely. Now, take a moment. That old jar in your kitchen, the one you inherited from your grandfather, the coffee can in your garage, that penny you tucked away decades ago, just because it looked odd, it might just hold your future. Subscribe to Timeless Treasures, where we don't just collect coins, we uncover stories, we preserve history, and sometimes, we help you find a miracle hiding in plain sight. What if a single penny from 1986 could pay for your entire vacation today? Or maybe even your grandchild's first car? You heard that right. A simple copper-colored coin, forgotten in drawers, passed from pocket to pocket, might just be a rare treasure hiding in plain sight. And if you grew up in the 70s or 80s, there's a real chance you've held one. Let me take you back. It was 1993. A retired railroad worker named Frank in Ohio was sorting through an old coffee tin his wife had kept since the Reagan era. Mostly pennies, nickels, nothing special. But one coin stood out. A 1986 Lincoln cent, missing something. No mint mark. He almost tossed it aside, but something about it felt off. He kept it. Showed it to a local dealer 2 weeks later. That little penny, forgotten for years, it was worth over $2,000. And that's not an isolated story. These rare errors, minted by mistake, never meant to be valuable, are now the holy grail for collectors. So what makes the 1986 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so special? Normally, in 1986, pennies minted in Philadelphia had no mint mark, nothing unusual there. But some Denver minted coins that should have had a D mint mark were accidentally struck without one. This was a rare die error, likely a Denver die that was never properly marked, and here's the kicker, only a handful are known to exist, that tiny missing D. That's what turns your 1-cent coin into a $1,000 mistake in your favor. You wouldn't believe how many of these coins have been spent unknowingly. Some were handed to kids for gumballs. Others rolled into bank machines. I even met a woman in Arizona who gave one away in change at a yard sale. She didn't realize until 5 years later, watching a coin video like this one. That loss? It still stings, because the window to find these is closing fast. Most have already disappeared, the rest are tucked away in dusty jars and old drawers, maybe even yours. So here's how to spot one. Grab your readers and a cup of coffee. Date must be 1986 and no mint mark under the date. Completely blank. Flip the coin. Lincoln's details should be sharp, not worn out. If it looks off, don't clean it, just set it aside safely. If you think you have one, don't guess. Get it verified by the pros. You can also bring it to a trusted local coin dealer, preferably one with a few gray hairs. If you know what I mean. You know that old mason jar on the shelf, the one you haven't touched since '92? Or your late uncle's coin box in the attic. There could be a fortune in memories, and maybe dollars, waiting for you, because sometimes, the most valuable things in life don't look like much at all.